Hello guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylin and I am so happy you decided to click on this video. Today we're doing an October wrap up. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna do something new and we're gonna talk about my stats. So I track all my books on the app called Fable. I love Fable so much. If you want to follow me, the link is down below. It's everything I want in a reading app in one place. It has that social media aspect of like Threads or Twitter, old school Twitter, and then it has like reading stats, and you can also track TV shows. So for the month of October, I read 13 books in total. I read 4 physical, I read 4 audiobooks, and 6 Kindle books. My average rating this month was a 3.3 star, and this is what my book calendar looks like. I love a book calendar. I'm so glad Fable does this because I think it's so cute and so cool to see like what books I read when. It just makes it so much easier. My brain loves it. I'm a visual learner. And so far the most genre I read is romance, which is shocking because I don't really like romance, so I don't know what's going on in there. Okay, let's just get into it. I'm gonna talk about the physical books first, and then we'll get into the books I don't have. First book I read was Immortal Dark. This is a dark academia with vampires, and you're following this girl named Keaton who is an orphan, and her sister has gone missing, and along with that she thinks she knows who took her sisters. In this world you have this school that only you can get to by invitation, and the only people invited to this are of these certain families that are involved because vampires are in this world, and only these vampires can feed off of people from their families, if that makes sense. It's kind of confusing and it's not really explained that well, so you kind of just have to pick it up as you go, which that's one of the things I didn't like about this. And so in there she meets this guy named Susenyos who is a vampire, and if she does not go and pass the course, that her family's house passes on to him and he will inherit this house, and she doesn't want that, and she obviously goes because she thinks that this will be the key to finding out what happened to her sister. So in there she discovers a secret society, lots of things go on, she meets friends, she may or may not find like enemies to lovers, you know. Here's the thing with this book. I feel like this book jumped around so much, kind of like my summary for it, okay? I was very confused at parts. I feel like I wish a lot of things were explained more. The romance I feel like came out of nowhere in this. One second she hates him and the next she can't stop thinking about him. I'm like, girlfriend, what are we doing? And I don't know. It just wasn't thought out well to me. It just felt very flat, and I'm very upset because I was so excited for this book. We need good vampire books, and I just didn't like this book, so I think I give it like a 2 star. Next book I read was Finale by Stephanie Garber. I cannot tell you what this book is about because it is the last book in the Kalreadsalot trilogy. I did vlog all my thoughts and feelings about this book, so if you want to watch that vlog, make sure you go watch it. I will link it down below. In this you follow Scarlett and Donatella. Scarlett has always wanted to go to this event called the Kalreadsalot, which is basically a game that's put on for a week, and you can only go if you're invited, if Legendary, who is the guy who runs Kalreadsalot, invites you. And so she wants to go. Finally she gets a letter and she goes. Her and her sister go, but when she gets there she doesn't know her sister is part of the game. I mean, obviously her sister doesn't know that either, but she has to win the game in order to find her sister. And then there unravels this whole thing and everything comes out, and it's just so good. It's so whimsical. It's just 5 stars for this book. I'm so sad I'm done with this world, but I could live in this world. I just want to live in this world and marry Jax. Sorry, not sorry. Next book I read was Fable by Ian Reid. This book was strange. This is a science fiction book following this couple named Junior and Henrietta. One day this guy from the government shows up and says, hey, you've been put on this list to go to this experiment in space. And they're kind of like, okay, cool. And then he's like, no, only Junior, not you, Henrietta. You have to stay here while he goes off to space, and he has no choice if this happens, but he's gonna be gone for years. And so there it kind of follows them along this journey. I can't say too much because I feel like saying any more would give stuff away, but it is so strange. It's one of those books you can't stop reading because you want to know what the heck exactly is going on. The twist in this book, I guess, so sadly it wasn't very twisty to me. I think this book is maybe a psychological thriller. It's got a mystery aspect to it, but I don't think it's thriller. I don't know. So there's a movie and Paul Mescal and I'm gonna butcher her name. I don't even want to say her name because I know I'm gonna butcher it. But two actors I love are in this movie, and I've yet to watch the movie, so I need to watch the movie to see how they did. I don't think the movie got great reviews, which is sad. Very weird. If you want a weird book, check this book out. And it's also super short. Last physical book I read was Phantasma, which was freaking fantastic. You see what I did there? Oh, this is basically Carvel, but darker, kind of. And you're following two sisters who just lost their mom, and the older sister, what was her name again? Ophelia. The older sister inherits her mom's necromancy magic, and in that she discovers a whole bunch of issues. There's money issues, they're gonna lose the house. So one day she wakes up, the little sister is gone, and she thinks her little sister went to this event that gets put on called Phantasma, and it's basically haunted house. You go in and you go through the 7 levels of hell, and whoever wins a prize of whatever they want. And so she goes and she enters. And listen, I don't know why more people haven't read this book. I can't stop thinking about this book. This is one of those books that made me feel that 5-star feeling, as what Emmy Reads says, 5 stars is a feeling. This was totally that. I knew as soon as I opened this book and read the first page, I was like, yeah, this book is gonna be good. This is gonna be a 5-star book. I just fell in love with the world, the love, oh my God, the love interest. So good. And this is also a standalone fantasy. I feel like I don't read many standalone fantasies. I feel like we need more of them. This was done so well. The pacing was done well. When I got to the end of the book, everything was wrapping up a little too nicely, and I didn't know it was a standalone, okay? So everything was wrapping up a little too nicely. I'm like, where's the twist? I know there's gonna be a twist, where's the twist? Because I was thinking this was like a duology or a trilogy. No, it's a standalone. It made so much sense once it wrapped up. I was like, is this a standalone? And then I looked it up, and yeah, it's a standalone. There's another book coming out that's interconnected to this book, but it is a standalone, and it is so good, and I feel like everyone needs to read this book. This book played like a movie in my head. And if you can't already guess, I gave this book a 5-star. Now, let's move on to the books I don't have with me, which are audio and ebooks. The first audiobook I listened to was Apprentice to the Villain, which is the second book, An Assistant to the Villain. I think that's what the first book is called. This book is very much like Once Upon a Time, but also make it more cozy. I don't know how to describe this book other than it's a cozy fantasy with very low stakes. You're following this girl who gets a job to be the assistant to the villain, and then she ends up going through this whole thing with the villain. There's trouble that comes in, she finds new friends, there's family trouble, she may fall in love with the villain, you don't know. But I don't really know how to describe this book other than it's Once Upon a Time, but make it a little more cozy-ish and not so much fairy tale-esque. I don't know. I suck at book summaries, so that's what you're gonna get from me for this book, and I think I gave it like a 3-star. The next book I read was The Butcher and the Wren. Now this book is the debut novel of a person who runs a podcast called Morbid. I've never listened to Morbid before, but I know of Morbid, and in this book you're following dual POVs between a serial killer and a medical examiner. The medical examiner is like the best of the best, and she gets stumbled with this case because she keeps having case after case of people dying and she can't figure out exactly the pattern. And then the serial killer obviously is the serial killer. I haven't read many thrillers with the serial killer POV, and I really like it. What does that say about me? But I think it's really interesting. And I would say the gore level in this, like if you have a weak stomach, maybe not read this, but I don't think it's that gory or anything, but it's definitely not someone who isn't into it. You know what I'm saying? So I gave this book a 3-star. Next is A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. This is the second book in the Game of Thrones series. I'm making progress, guys. I've been listening to these books on audiobook because they are chunky and I don't have them with me. The goal is to get them physically, but I don't have them with me. Guys, the audiobooks keep going up in time. The next book is 48 hours. This book was 38 hours long, and I did it and I listened to it all and I really love it. I think it helps that I have seen the show so many times so I can kind of see it play out in my head, but I've never read the book series, which is why I'm doing it before I do my annual rewatch I do. And it's so good. I love Game of Thrones. If you're looking for an epic fantasy, please check this book out. It's so good. It's so good. The last audiobook I listened to was Dinner for Vampires by Bethany Joy Lenz, who plays Miss Haley James Scott off of One Tree Hill. If you're a One Tree Hill fan, you know who she is. If not, get on it. Watch One Tree Hill, you'll thank me later. I was obsessed with the show. I remember watching the show, obsessed with the show. I've seen it so many times. So when I heard she was having a book out, I'm like, of course, I need to read it. This book, I had no idea what was going on, and I think that was the whole point of the book. She was in a cult for the entire time she was on One Tree Hill, and no one knew. I mean, they suspected, but no one knew. I am a nosy person, so I love books like this, and it was good. And I don't read nonfiction, so do with that information what you will. I read 6 ebooks. I don't know what got into me last month. I don't know why I decided to read mostly on my Kindle. I have 2 books that are part of a series that I'm just gonna group together, and that is A Conjuring of Light and A Gathering of Shadows, which are the last 2 books in the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. I don't think that's actually what the trilogy is called, but that's what I call it, by V.E. Schwab. I love this series so much. I was not a huge V.E. Schwab fan after reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, so I was very hesitant to pick up this series, but once I picked up the first book, I ate it up, and I needed the 2 other books in this series, and this whole series is a 5-star series for me, that is for sure. So I don't want to say what these books are about because I did a vlog of me vlogging them and like my thoughts and all that and what the whole series is about, so if you want to see that, go check the link in the bio. But it's just a 5-star series. Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter is the next ebook I read. This was very much was on the same level, better than the movies. I am not a Lynn Painter fan. I think I just don't like her writing. I feel like her writing is very young and immature for me, which honestly, these characters are in high school and following them their freshman year of college. So, or freshman year or maybe like sophomore year, I don't know, they're in college. So it's like a 10-year age difference for me. So of course they're gonna feel young, but I don't know. Wes got on my nerves. I liked him in the first book. This book, he was cringe. So cringe. Also, the one thing I just have to say this, the way he mentions her perfume in every single scene is so bizarre to me because first off, what man knows what Chanel No. 5 smells like? No man. The fact that this character who is supposed to feel so real to us knows what Chanel No. 5 smells like, that's just not it for me. He was just very cringe. I was just weirded out by him, honestly. And I'm done with Lynn Painter, so I'm not even gonna rate this book because it was bad. Society of Lies. This book deals with a dark academia secret society. This follows a woman who is about to go back to Harvard because her little sister is graduating Harvard, but when she gets there, her little sister ends up dead. You're following dual timelines but also dual POVs. Now, I was kind of disappointed in this book. It very much felt to me like a debut novel. Some debut novels don't have this feeling, some of them do, and I could tell this was a debut novel. It was still good, but it wasn't as good as I was hoping for, and I gave it a 2.5. The Last One at the Wedding. I loved this author's first book, Hidden Pictures. It was so good to me. This one was, I feel like he just put in every trope he could put in this book, and in this one you're following the dad's point of view, which may have been the problem for me because I don't follow a lot of men's POVs unless they're in fantasy books and unless they're written by women. Men written by men are just not it. I feel like that was the issue with me, but you're following this guy whose daughter and him have been estranged for years, calls him up randomly and says, hey, I'm getting married, I want you to come be my fiance. Oh, by the way, you're invited to the wedding. He shows up and from there he meets the fiance and he just thinks, this is bizarre. Something is off with this guy, this marriage, something's not right. And so he goes to the wedding and this family is loaded, like so rich they could kill someone and get away with it. Rich, okay? And it's just very bizarre. His daughter's acting weird. The fiance wants nothing to do with like entertaining the dad. Like usually your future son-in-law and the father-in-law will kind of form a relationship. He wanted nothing to do with that. So the whole time you're just like, what exactly is going on? 2-star for me. The last one was a huge disappointment for me. And a lot of you guys are gonna disagree with me and that is okay because it's my opinion and you have your opinion and that is what makes the world so beautiful. One Dark Window. I was so excited to read this book. I've been putting it off for so long because I was scared because I was scared this was going to happen. So in this book, you're following this girl named Elizabeth who lives in this world where there's a sickness that's brought on by the mist. Some of them get the fever that causes them to develop magical powers, and if you get magical powers, you have to be executed. Like, that's not allowed. So Elizabeth has magical powers and she's been hiding this, but she also has this thing in her head that she calls the Nightmare, who like talks to her and like helps her out in certain situations. So also the magic is run by tarot cards. So one day, the king's nephew, who's also a highwayman. They kind of run into each other. They form an alliance and says, I need your help because I need to collect this last tarot card because that will help kill the mist and the sickness. And so they just form an alliance. I was very confused with this book. I feel like I was missing something the entire time while reading this. I feel like stuff really wasn't explained. I feel like there was tons of plot holes, tons of loose ends, and the romance was kind of out of pocket for me. Like there was no build up to it. It was kind of just like, bam, we love each other. And I'm just like, okay, where was A, B, and C, and D? You know what I'm saying? And I just hated this book. I haven't decided if I'm going to carry on with this duology because there's only one more book. And a lot of people are like, read the second book, it all makes sense, but I don't know if I want to do that to myself. You guys tell me, should I read the second book? I don't know. I gave this book a 2-star. What a very chaotic wrap up. I feel like I was very jumbled throughout this entire wrap up, so I'm very sorry if none of it made sense, but this is just how I talk. This is how my brain works, and I just like to yap and get it all out. If you're looking for very thought out reviews, you won't find that here. I cannot analyze books for you. I cannot do those really in-depth detail reviews. My brain just doesn't work that way because quite frankly, I read a book and it usually goes in one ear out the other type of situation. I have to take notes in order to remember what I thought about the book. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you guys are subscribing because I would love to have you here. And remember to be kind to yourself and others around you and tell me what you read for October. And I will see you guys very, very soon. Goodbye.